everyone, pull up a chair, grab a brew, let's have a chat, an old chinwag as the next series of the teams that I am unsure of. The wait and sees, these are always the exciting ones. It's going to be a season of twists and turns, and going to be them moments where you're just going to be burying your head in the sand wondering what the heck's going to happen. And these are three teams that I just think will be really good, but I can't quite place just how good. So we're going to go through three separate teams. They are Fremantle, GWS and the Sydney Swans. But before we start this video, I want to begin it with some sad news. A real big supporter of this channel and lifelong Carlton fan, Hank, unfortunately passed away over the weekend. And me personally, I was actually really touched by this news because he was one of my first people that ever reached out to me when I started this. When it was really popular to go, what does a pom know about footy? This gentleman was one who just told me to keep on going, get my head into the game and just keep on doing what I'm doing. So my condolences go out to Rebecca and his family, sending all the love in the world, and rest in peace. God bless. So let's begin. Fremantle, one of them teams, aren't they? You know, they're bubbling away. You expect quite a lot. They're always full of promise, but you just never know where to actually put them. And they kind of just almost end up hovering. They're like that mate who's always this close to getting his act together, but never quite does it. But he's always in your DMs saying that this year's going to be the year. So what's in store for them this year? Let's go through the highs and lows, dig into some juicy data for you, have a look at the trade period, and focus on a couple of key players and what the noise is from the training track as we try and answer, are Freo going to step up, or will it be another season of what ifs maybe next year? So let's talk about last year. It started really well, and it did really start well. 3 wins on the bounce, they looked sharp, they played aggressive, they played with a lot of dare and panache, real young, exciting team as well. And then, well, it went pear-shaped. There was that dodgy Port Adelaide loss. There was that absolute disgraceful loss against West Coast Eagles in the derby. I mean, losing to the Eagles in 24, it's like losing to your nana in a 100 metres race. And then Freo started to wobble, and then there was them murmurs, as they often do. As the coach, JR, has got a lot of promise, but you look at this list, this is probably the best Fremantle side for a long, long time. There was a bit of a resurgence, though, towards the end of the year. 6 wins in 7. Top 8 looked doable, but then it cracked. The footy god said, not today. And then that back end of the year was really, really poor. 4 straight losses. Alex Pearce, captain, and Sean Darcy derailing them, and they tumbled to 10th in the ladder, finishing with 12 wins, 10 losses, 1 draw, and missing the final by a skin of your nan's whiskers. It felt like deja vu. Always close, never quite there. So let's get into the numbers, right? Defensively, they were actually a really solid side. 7th for points against from stoppage, 3rd for points against turnover, 3rd for points against defensive halves chains, and 5th for points against forward halves chains. And they finished 4th with total points against. Very respectable defensive effort. Rock solid at the back, and Fremantle are one of them sides, aren't they? When you look at their back line, you probably don't give it as much respect as it deserves. They were as good as a northern pub. Nothing flashy, sticky floors, good, honest, stale beer. Dependable, but also tough to break into. And you never want to break into a northern pub. Them landladies scare the shite out of me. But in attack, it was a different story. 9 from points from stoppage, 10 from points in turnover, 5th from defensive half scores. Not bad. When you've got Hayden and Young, though, you'd expect this to be good. And again, that forward half, 10 from scores from forward half pressure, and 10th in total points. And it felt blunt, which is a really good word. It felt like it was as sharp as a meat cleaver down the back, but in the forward half, it felt like a butter knife. You've got to flip it over to cut the bread. And that's the worst bit. Their pressure was non-existent at times. When the ball hit the deck, particularly in attacking 50, it just felt like they were playing tag rather than footy. They didn't create enough chances. And in modern day footy, if you can't score from ground balls, that can be a killer. Right, so let's look at Fremantle's trade period, because they were really busy. They looked like David Jason in only fools and horses. They wheeled and dealed. They brought in Shai Bolton, an absolute jet, X-Factor, electrifying. We'll come on to him a little bit more. Jaron Carr, pick 63 in the draft, a young lad with footy in his DNA and Fremantle through and through. They took a punt on Quinton Narkle, hoping to resurrect his AFL career. This guy seems to have more cracks on him than Nana's ivory-made elephants on her wall. Charlie Nichols, a developing key forward prospect for them. Murphy Reed, the most well-rounded player I felt in the draft, a real solid inside and out player. And Aiden Riddle, a developing ruckman with scope who could play down the back. And they didn't lose too much. Josh Corbett, good career, but time caught up with him as he retired. And then Matt Taberner, Tom Emmett, Ethan Hughes, Max Noble, Sebek Kewick, Ethan Stanley and Conrad Williams. They all delisted them. Cheers for your service, lads. It's time to start afresh. And we talked about them players. Let's look at one of their new recruits. Freo's X-Factor in Shai Bolton. One of the biggest gets this trade period. He brings explosive pace, elite goal sense, forward half pressure, creativity, all the things Fremantle we've listed desperately need. And in 2024, playing for a team that was really chasing the footy, he played 22 games, 16.8 touches, 1.6 goals per game, 3.8 inside 50s per game, and 5.5 score involvements. And Bolton is that kind of player that can change the game in an instant. His ability to get through players, his ability to evade, his ability to hit the scoreboard, bring players in around him, and also take the focus off the toes with his danger shouldn't be understated. And he's going for a team where he was probably heavily focused on, to a team that has a plethora of players that can really spread the load in tags. He will be critical, in my opinion, to unlocking Fremantle's forward line from being average to being above average. If he can get the supply from the midfield, expect him to have a career best year. He's in some esteemed company. Not many people average his touches and go close to a couple of goals a game. He's a player that I feel could be an All-Australian unlock at Fremantle Football Club. Who's it a big year for? Who's going to take that step up? And you know, the player I'm looking at is Luke Jackson. He has to be one of the key big players in the league. Him and Sean Darcy, who has looked a lot fitter this year, has been that dual ruck system. And the fact that Jackson's so athletic and slide forward adds that real new panache to what Fremantle were doing. He played 23 games last year, 16.3 touches, 16.3 hits out, 1 mark inside 50 per game, 3 clearances and just under a goal a game. And there were moments last year where it just felt like he was about to break out and become a real top player, especially around the ground, where his athleticism and his high mobility really set him apart against the old school ruck. But the key question for me is consistency. If you can find that extra gear week in, week out, he's definitely one of the most MVPs in the bigs in the league. Freo need to really hope he finds that step up and finds the way to really be that player, because people forget this guy's played an awful lot of footy since he was drafted. Always over 20 games. He's very, very robust. It's just getting that je ne sais quoi from him, which I think could be a huge POD. Early signs from the training track have been really interesting. Shai Bolton has been dominating up forward. Sean Darcy has come back leaner and looks like he's really dominating the hit-outs. The young guns in Neil Erasmus has been playing ahead of the ball in the midfield. Nathan O'Driscoll has really stood out in match sim. Hayden Young has gone forward, showcasing his change from the midfield last year. And they have got a few injuries. Michael Walters and Nat Fife still in the rehab room and just going early doors. And Cooper Simpson has been rumoured to be really changing the game. They've got some really exciting players up there. So what is the deal? Can Fremantle crack 14 plus wins? For us, we've got the par expectation around that 14th win. And they are the 11th oldest team and the 13th most experienced. But they have the 6th hardest fixture list. If that forward line can unlock, boy oh boy, this could be the year. Fremantle are really dangerous and a really exciting team to watch. It'll come down for me whether they can sort their issues out forward half of the ball. If Bolton's firing, they become super dangerous in attack. 14 wins for me is doable. What do you guys and girls think? Let me know. Or is it going to be another Nelly season? Up next, GWS, a team that seems to be just talked about in a perpetual rebuild. They lose players and they gain them. They have got talent, muscle and speed to burn. But again, it feels like these are one of them teams that can be the so nearly team. But do they have the guts when the going gets tough? Let's have a look at last year and talk about their season. 2024 was a season really of big showcase moments where Kingsley's side looked like they could mix it with the best. They started strongly, had incredible momentum and looked like a bona fide top side. But it felt like they were missing something special and they had a habit of making golden chances slip. And it felt like they never quite closed the door in some games. And that finals loss was just really amplified that. They were leading, they looked strong, they looked like they had one foot on a grand final appearance, but then it slipped right through their fingers. And their season was kind of the same. They ended the season with 4 wins, coming home with a wet sail out of 5, finishing the year on 15 wins, 8 losses. And they are a team that really in the season really showcased that. It just seems to be when it comes down to finals, it's a real tough one. Have they got the ability to challenge the big dogs when it matters in a game where all the pressure's on? Now let's have a look at them in a data point of view. They were really right in the middle of the road defensively. 9th for points against for stoppage, 10th for points against from turnover, 5th from the defensive half, 11th from forward half, and 9th points in total. Now, although it's not quite elite, it's a good building block for going better, and it just shows their ability to finish off some games, really showcase why they finished top 4. They were hard to break down, and that really did set them apart. But at times, once they lost the ball, them leaks from turnover are a real killer. And it was real easy goals conceded as well, and that's where they need to tighten up. Offensively, 7th from points from stoppage, 9th in points from turnover, 7th in defensive half, 8th from forward half, and 7th from total points. Again, it feels like a real middle-of-the-road attacking side for a top 4 side. And they had moments where they looked stoppable, but it's like their best to worst is few and far between. And it's finding that extra gear and particularly consistency will turn them from contenders into champions. Now let's look at their trade period. They addressed Jake Stringer, experience, unpredictable, a real game changer. They got Cody Angrove, a very young developing half forward. Joshua Delena, a raw talent with plenty of upside and a proper GWS type player. Ollie Hannaford, a very clean user with incredible vision. Harry Oliver, pick 19, one of the best halfbacks to come through the draft. A real steal for me and one player I think will play a plethora of games. Jack O, hard-working player who can play on the wing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him play half-back and half-forward. He runs all day. And Logan Smith, their academy tall guy, homegrown talent, and one of these players that really does go well. It was surprising, though, with some of the players that they left. Isaac Cumming, a big loss in the terms of experience and defensive structure. Nick Haynes, another experienced head, but been a terrific servant. Harry Perryman, very versatile, and I think a big miss here because I think of his versatility. James Peatling, another guy who has shown potential but never quite cemented his spot. Real good pickups by Adelaide. Adam Kennedy, he retired as stalwart. And Braden Pruce and Cooper Hamilton will miss the TikToks, but they ran out of time. So let's look at Jake Stringer. Jake Stringer is one of them players that can really set the game apart. He's called the package. His ability to burst through at stoppage really helps GWS out. And his ability to score goals out of nothing really helps them out. He's exactly what GWS need. They do feel like they lack a little bit of bite in that forward line because they've had too many terrific players. He brings strong physical presence. He's very muscly. He plays that undersized role. And he's got a real knack of bringing the ball to ground and being a real handful. He could be really crucial in unlocking that next level of that forward line, something they've struggled with. And Essendon last year, 23 games, 12.7 touches, 1.8 goals a game, 3.2 inside 50s, 5.4 score involvements, and 2.1 tackles per game. At his best, he's a game changer. The challenge for GWS will be getting him fit, engaged, and firing consistently, because on his day, he's one of the most dangerous players in the league. He's a big addition, and he really does bring that experience, that bit of mongrel to really make that GWS side look more damaging. And they've done wonders with Jesse Hogan. Adding Stringer alongside him means more goals for Hogan. Who's it a big year for? For me, the most underrated player in the competition, and that is Tom Green. It's becoming his midfield. He's a contested ball magnet who thrives on these tight battles and really racks them clearances up, but he's a metronome for what they do. Elite in traffic, very, very rarely fumbles, and has a knack of hitting targets, even when he's been tackled. His size and his absolute work ethic is a real nightmare in around the contest, and his ability to win them ground balls really allows them to be dynamic. 25 games last year, 30.8 touches, 6.2 clearances, 4 tackles, 5.7 score involvements per game, and 2.8 inside 50s. But where does Green need to improve? For me, it's adding that layer that we've seen Cripps add recently and Bont excels at, the forward half impact. His size and footy IQ, it doesn't quite make sense why he isn't as potent a goal-kicking threat as he can be. If he can add that 1 or 2 goals here and there to his repertoire, he will go from a very good midfielder to an elite one. When they've got Josh Kelly, Stephen Cornelio, Lockie Whitfield, and the presumed upside of Finn Callaghan, this midfield group is the league's best on paper. If he can go up another step, that Giants midfield becomes the heartbeat, the living soul of the Giants. A contested beast who's playing with some very flair players. If they're going to dominate, he can go up a level. Now, the early news from pre-season has been promising. Stringer is evidently looking the fittest and sharpest he's ever looked, absolutely leading that forward line with Jesse Hogan. James Leake is evidently pushing for a round 1 debut. A round 1 berth after having super injuries in the last couple of years. And he could definitely be that ready-made player to go into that Peatling Perriman type role. He's versatile enough to play a plethora of positions. And Finn Callaghan, again, has been told he's taken his game up to another level. When you look at their depth as well, when you've got Lee Kalia, Jacob Ware and players like that, they have really got a real solid rotation. So what is the power expectation? 13 wins for me, the 13th oldest list and the 14th most experienced squad. Feels like a side that has been rebuilding forever, but always getting that top 8 berth. It's a well-balanced list, but it just needs to shake off that ability of finding its best form when it counts in the finals. They have been gifted a really easy fixture. Them and Carlton have got real easy fixtures. This is the 14th easiest fixture, hardest fixture in the league. So are they ready to step up and take the challenge? Can the Giants become the big dogs in Sydney? That, my friends, is something that only 2025 will answer. But what do you guys and girls think? Giants, the real deal or not? And finally, Sydney Swans. This was a gut-wrenching year where they were the best team in the competition for the majority of 2024, playing an attacking brand and absolutely scarring teams, finishing top of the ladder, 17 wins, 6 losses. And the big thing about these guys is when you watch them play last year was just that kind of annoying thing that they kind of lost that unbeaten streak of where they were loving the 1%ers, and they kind of came a bit monotonous, and it felt like they lost a lot of firepower in the finals. They felt like they were fearful and scared, and when it came to the big dance, they were absolutely schooled by Brisbane. Dean Cox comes in there replacing legend Horse, and the fans are expecting an exciting thing. Now, the big thing about them is they played that fast, aggressive, lethal footy, and we don't expect them to change too much under Cox. He's been there for a while, he understands what Horse is doing, but versatility has been the role coming out of the messaging out of Sydney. This is a really intriguing one for me of what they can do. Now, defensively, they were the 3rd hardest side to score from stoppage, 11 from points from turnovers, 2nd from defensive half scores, 10th from forward half scores, and 7th for total points against. A real rock-solid defensive transition side. It was just them points from turnover. Teams like to give them the ball, and that was towards the end of the season where teams really had a bit of success, particularly the Footscray game and the Port Adelaide game when Port Adelaide were flourishing. They really knew to sit back and then counter-punch over the top as they commit numbers forward of the ball. It felt like at times as well that they got too usy of the ball watching Sydney, and they tried to get that perfect pass, which again created them intercept opportunities. But attacking-wise, this was one of the best sides in the comp. third for scores from stoppage, first for scores from turnover, fourth from scores from defensive half, and the number one forward half and total points scoring. They were above and beyond attacking wise, and it was like you said, them overloads. But the problem for me was when plan A didn't work, they looked vulnerable when teams started to sit back on them, and that is a problem. Now, in the trade period, Reich Andrew came in, tall, raw, plenty of upside. I'm really excited about this pick. Riley Bice, the mature age player who can play halfback and in the midfield, and is a real good ball user, a real solid recruitment. Ned Bowman, a really exciting forward prospect there. Jesse Dutole, half forward, can play in the midfield, lightning quick. And then Blake Laidler and Ben Patton, the experienced player, joined, and Blake being a really explosive pressure magnet forward type player. They lost Harry Arnold, who didn't quite make the cut. Jacob Constanti got a new start at North. Jaden McGaw, unlucky, but no room for him, really, no scope for development. Lachlan McAndrew struggled for opportunities. Sam Reed, absolute warrior, he called it a day. Luke Parker was traded, the legend that was, but time for young players to step up. And Cooper Vickery, who just never could break in. And if you love watching them take the game on, it's not so much the players that came in for me. Nick Blakey is definitely the man that excites me. This bloke is a run and carry machine, and a big part of why they were so hard to stop on turnover. Breaking lines, elite ball use, gives that give and go, good user of the football, and incredibly quick. He used to break them through like a laser with his foot at times. In the 26 games, under 21 touches, 5.8 rebound 50s, 6.2 intercept possessions, 2.5 inside 50s, going at 78%. His biggest strength is ability to turn defence into attack. Whether it's off halfback or when he was on the wing, his ability to long range accurately kick but also run out showed why Sydney was so dangerous in transition. His ball use is elite, meaning he rarely wastes it, but his interceptability as well really cuts teams to shreds. For times, though, there was times that when he was isolated, he did look vulnerable, and you saw this in the Brisbane game. If you can just iron out that and getting lost in transition, I expect a big year for the man they call the Lizard. Big year as well for Chad Warner. If they want to stay on top, for me, they need to keep him, and Chad Warner is that exceptional type of player. The noise from Perth gets louder at the minute, but this guy is one of the best players to watch in the competition. His high footy IQ, his breaking speed, his elite decision making. 25 games last year, 23.5 touches, 5.2 inside 50s, 4 clearances, 3.2 tackles, and 1.4 goals a game. This guy is electric. And he kills you around stoppage. And against the Carlton, that was a big one. His ability to just find them holes and run direct in stoppage traffic really killed us. And he is a massive big game player. And you can see why so many clubs will look to bring him in. But for me, I think he can go up a level. And what I'd love to see him do is just be a little bit stronger defensively and become more of a two-way runner. I think there is real opportunity, particularly around defensive half stoppage, to see him really impose himself. He is such a well-rounded player that I feel that he can take a step up. And I really hope he stays at Sydney, because I think this could be something for it. The rumours won't go away, though, and the better he plays, the louder the noise will be. The news from the track has been interesting. Flexibility and versatility have been the mantra, and he's looked to shake things up. Tom McCartan is starting forward, and I think they lack a big target man to really have someone to play off. Callum Mills, looking like he's going back to half-back, is really interesting, because I feel that ball use could really allow Nick Blakey to get up higher up at the ground, and could be a real interesting watch. And evidently Errol Goulding, for me, the best winger in the competition, has been knocking the door down. The talk is Riley Bice, Angus Shelwick and Matt Roberts are really pushing for big starting berths as well. So times are good at the Swans. Now the power expectation for me is again 15 wins. I'm expecting a big thing from Sydney. 7th oldest and 4th most experienced. Now's the go time. But the big question mark for me is, although they were the best team, they came unstuck at the worst time, and we've seen this a lot. And how quickly does the new coach, the new system, and the scars of 2024 take to heal and adapt? Their best footy is better than all of the sides, let's be honest. But their ability to collapse when the pressure is brought to them does make me question it. Dean Cox, West Coast icon, very experienced, taking the reins. Fresh energies, is this what they need? Because they are, to me, the biggest disappointment last year because they deserved to win it. Time will tell. Go Swannies. Right then, folks, that's the big season preview of the three clubs that I am like, wait and see. Fremantle, GWS and Sydney. Three teams with a lot to prove going into 2025. Will Fremantle finally join the upper echelons and be a threat deep in finals and find winning consistency? GWS, can they go a step further and really hold their nerve? And Sydney, can they buck the trend of teams that have failed in finals that then burst out? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me who you think will surprise. One of these sides probably will disappoint, history says. Let me know who you think that is. And as always, I hope you've enjoyed this. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. Don't miss some quality footy talk with your pom. That's me done. I'm out of here. Cheers for watching. Can't wait to see you soon. Pommy out.
Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.